Hey everybody, welcome back to John's Briefs here with Terry Johnson from Firearms Legal Protection, and got a good discussion today. Video that I'd encourage you to go watch, which comes out of Australia, had, just a crazy Keystone Cops situation of a couple of truck drivers stepping into an armed robbery and then the police showing up, and these truck drivers ended up driving the police car after them so that they could help them out, which was a little bit crazy. But what I want to talk about out of that one and several others is a private citizen stepping in to assist law enforcement. So let's talk about that from a legal perspective. Today's video is brought to us by the generosity of Firearms Legal Protection. Firearms Legal Protection is a legal defense program for lawful gun owners. You win the fight, and they will help you win the fight after the fight for the rest of your life. There's a link in the description for a coupon code for a discount for all active self-protection watchers. So Terry, I know, so we do think of bigger incidences like this, like, my friend Thomas Yoxel, who saved Trooper Ed Anderson here in Tonopah. And of course, that's a huge significant issue.
Right.
But in a less significant sense, these truckers, I think, did a moral good step trying to step in and stop this armed robbery. Whether it's smart or not is another question, but I think morally admirable. But what do you think of a private citizen stepping in to help a law enforcement officer in the performance of their duties?
I think it's great with permission of a law enforcement officer.
All right, unpack that for me.
And let me help you out. When law enforcement shows up, they don't know who's who. You know who's who. You're the good guy. This person across the room's the bad guy, but they don't know that. And you're not going to have on your shirt that says "good guy" across the front. So, to that law enforcement officer, every person is going to be a suspect. Okay?
Until they've established who they are, right?
Correct. Yeah. And, it's like the one I like to use, know what you know. So, for example, if we leave out of here today and we see two people fighting, one man that's 25 and another man that's 65, and the 25-year-old man is on top of the 65-year-old man just beating the hell out of him, what do? So, right then at that moment, it appears a 25-year-old man is the aggressor.
Is assaulting, yeah.
He's assaulting this guy, this older guy. We need to step in. But what you didn't know is 2 minutes before that, the 65-year-old man tried to rob the 25-year-old man. And the 25-year-old man was able to get out of this situation. So getting into a situation and trying to, as you said, unpack it, it's going to take a little bit of time.
Right.
And you are considered a suspect until the police tell you differently. Because they just don't know for their own safety.
Right, and we've seen private citizens on the channel, on the main channel, step in and help law enforcement. But what you said, I think, was really important, with permission. So that generally means, officer, do you need help?
Correct.
And I think when I say, officer, do you need help, that's pretty much identifying me as a good guy.
Pretty much. And listen, something happened. We had a situation in my neighborhood a couple of months ago. And the interesting thing is, I look out, the police are everywhere. And I step outside and I said, hey, I'm the homeowner. Is everything okay? Do you need my help? Nope, we're fine, Mr. Johnson. Everything's good. And they went about their way. Now, if I would have said, hey, don't worry about it, I'm a good guy too, and I start to pursue this person they were looking for.
Right. No, leave us do our job.
Yeah.
We got this under control.
Yeah, they're the professionals. They have, the walkie-talkies, the body cams, the communication. They know what's going on. And sometimes when you put yourself in that situation without permission, you can kind of screw things up. And then you might get a charge of obstruction of justice.
But I think if you ask and the officer says, no, I got it, okay, step back.
Step back.
But, if it's serious enough that you're asking, I think many times they might say, yes, I need help.
Yeah.
And now
stay
you're
here,
okay.
Call an ambulance, or do this, do that. They're not going to say, yeah, here's my gun, go out there and chase this guy down, take the police car and run after him.
But I think if he's wrestling with some guy on the ground who's giving him a hard time and he's getting the best of the officer, do you need help? He might say, yes, I need help.
Yep. And that's different because, again, you can see the situation in front of you going on.
Right.
But if the officer's not engaged in something like that and do you need my help? That's
easy question.
Powerful. Yeah.
Easy question, right?
Yeah.
And then I think that, okay, so if they say, yes, I need help, well, now step in and help to the best of your abilities. My wife had this not too long ago where she saw an officer having a tussle with a guy, and then she was like, I didn't know what to do. because she doesn't have a significant empty-handed skill set.
Sure.
She didn't have a need for a firearm in that moment. It wasn't really a deadly threat that she could see, and like she didn't have her pepper spray on her or anything. She said, I don't know what to do. And I said, what you need to do, dear, is go to jiu-jitsu class so that you have some skills, so that if that happens again, you could step in if the officer needed it. You know, and that doesn't always mean drawing the gun. It could mean a whole lot of stuff, but getting that permission, I think, is the very first thing, because they'll let you know if they need help.
Correct.
And then if they do, then get in there and help if you want to. Now, you don't have a duty to, though. Is that correct?
You don't. You do not have a duty, but, you know, I just thought about something else, you know. If this officer tells me to do something and I do it, has he or she radioed to the other officers to say, hey, I got a good guy in a black shirt and he's in this establishment, talk to him. You know, there's a lot of things going on at that moment that we, quote unquote, would assume the officers would have done. And we don't want to make those assumptions and put ourselves in a bad position.
So here's another part of that. I think it's worth discussing, because I know some people, they have a hard time today trusting police officers. And so they say, oh, I see a police officer having a tussle with somebody, and how do I know that the officer's in the right? Now, that's not my heart, okay? I'm pro law enforcement. I think the vast majority of cops are doing a really good job. But in my opinion, even if you think that this guy may be in the right resisting an officer, I'm really having a hard time with that right now, but let's just say you do. In my opinion, it's still smart to help the officer get that guy in cuffs if he needs help, because what happens if you don't?
Yeah.
And now it escalates because dude tries to take the officer's gun and gets shot.
Yeah, it can go wrong a lot of different ways.
Fighting with a cop is never going to end well.
And as we've said in previous videos, you know, the time to fight with an officer is not on the street.
Right.
It's in court. So you want to arrest me, you know, I've said this before to a few officers, you know, fine, you want to arrest me, let's do it, but you may win out here, but when you get in my place, court, it's my ball game at that point.
Yeah. Well, and I think, again, so I'm just thinking, if an officer needs help, he's tussling with somebody, even if I think, gosh, I don't know who was in the right here, man, the best thing to do is to help that fight to end for the sake of the person that they're fighting with. Because the best case scenario is they get into cuffs without getting hurt.
Right.
And if they escalate it, then the officer's going to escalate it. You may beat a cop, but you're never going to beat his Motorola.
Correct.
He's got buddies on the way, and it's not going to end well. So, you know, again, don't fight cops on the roadside, right? But, you know, at the very least, you know, when the situation with my wife, she said, what should I have done there, dear? I said, call 911.
Absolutely.
That's, at the very least, you don't know if they've had time to key their mic, get to dispatch, get some help on the way. If you're not able to step in for whatever reason, you know, you're not capable, you have loved ones that you have to defend, that they can't be left alone or whatever, at least get on the phone with 911 so then they've got some help on the way.
And one other thing on that, you know, think about this. The officer is fighting someone who doesn't want to go to jail today.
Right.
Okay. You get out and try to help. How does the officer know at that point who you are? That's something else you got to think about. What's in the officer's mind? You know, I'm fighting this person, now I get two of them. And he's saying, oh, I'm a good guy. Well, good guy to who? You know, to...
Officer, do you need help? No. Okay, I'm just going to back out of here.
That's the key question.
Officer, do you need help? Yes. Okay, I'm in, you know,
Right.
if you have the skill set. So, interesting stuff here. Now, do you think, Terry, if the officer says yes, do I then, as a private citizen, gain some kind of qualified immunity for helping him or her?
I think you, again, depending upon where you are, it could go a long ways to saying, the officer asked me to help, you know. And some jurisdictions, you may, quote unquote, be deputized for that moment.
Right. In a limited sense, right?
Limited sense,
Yeah.
correct.
Don't
So-
shine up your star and start doing weird things. You're not Barney Fife.
Correct, correct. So, you know, if the officer says, yes, help, I need help, then you're helping. You're
Right.
helping bring justice forward as opposed to obstructing justice by doing something he didn't tell you to do.
And I think if that's something that interests you, that's a great reason to have a very robust empty-handed skill set, very robust toolkit along for the ride. You know, in my friend Thomas's case, he needed his firearm to help
Right.
Trooper Anderson, who would have been killed otherwise. So yeah, and I think that's a moral good. So just know what you're doing when you do it. And I think let's just the big point here, officer, do you need help?
That's where it starts.
And I mean, I guess the only time that's not going to be the case, you see somebody beating somebody's head in and he can't reply. You know what I mean? And
Correct.
Then in that case, you probably assume, okay, wait a minute, he definitely needs my help, or she definitely needs my help in this point, because you're a reasonable person.
Absolutely, and that makes a difference.
Terry, thanks.
Thank you.